Hello, everyone. My name is Beth Deloge, and I am the Development Director here at the Trails and Open Space Coalition, and I'm thrilled to be joining the next hour with you all. I'm going to be your host for tonight's Trail Mixer, but I'm not on here alone. We do have the entire TOSC staff here if they all want to join me on the screen so you can see their smiling faces. This team here, I just want to tell you, is an incredible team. Many of you probably know that already, but this is the team that does amazing work. They continuously and fiercely advocate for our trails and open spaces that we use and that we love so much. They fight for more open spaces. They fight for additional trail connections. They ensure our trails and open spaces are being maintained. They teach sustainability. They recruit and train new advocates. They're pretty awesome. And they're deeply committed to making sure that our trails and open spaces in our area are just as awesome. So I'm going to give quick introductions to everyone. I'm not sure how they're appearing on your screen. So I'm going to start from my left to right and go that way. First, Sherry Dodge is our office manager. I almost said officer. Sometimes you feel that way because you keep us in line. We also have Alan, who is our community engagement guru. Hi, Alan.
Hello.
We have Michael, who is the Ring the Peak Trail Project Manager, and you're going to hear a lot more from him later tonight. Hey, Mike. We have Aaron Rogers, who's our program coordinator and is probably going to be pitching the Urban Trail Challenge at some point, so hold tight. And then we have our fearless leader, Susan Davies, the executive director. So that is your TOSC team that are your fierce advocates for the trails and open spaces, and we're really proud to serve you guys, and we like to connect with you and hear from you. So that's why we're here with you tonight. So everyone give a wave to everyone out there in cyberspace. We're gonna have you guys go down, but we'll have you all come back at the question and answer session at the very end of the call. Before we dive into the meat of our mixer tonight, I do wanna go over a couple pieces of housekeeping tonight. First of all, I wanna let you know that all of you have been muted, so you can speak to us and we will not hear what you're saying. And your videos have been turned off. So you can be dancing around in your pajamas, you can be eating your dinner sloppily, and we don't care. Do what you need to do. Also, if you have any questions during this piece, we do want to hear from you. We ask that you go to the Q&A down at the very bottom of your screen. It should be on the bottom of most of your screens. At any point, go ahead and put questions in. It can be pertinent to the speaker at hand, or it can be about literally anything. And Aaron will be managing all those, and he will bring them up when the time is appropriate. So if you want to communicate anything to us, if we're talking too much, too little, anything you want to say, put it in that Q&A for us. Also throughout, we'll be asking you some survey questions. When it's time for those, they'll pop right up. You just click on the answer that you want to answer, and we'll talk about those. But that's one way that we can hear from you during these trail mixers. So when you see those, please join in and participate. Before we go too much further, we actually want to test you with our first survey. We are really curious to know who is on our call tonight. So we're wondering, how long have you been a TOSC member? Please let us know. Did you just find us? Did you just join? Have you been with us for roughly a year? Are you a little bit longer term, 2 to 5 years? Or are you a TOSC connoisseur and been with us for 5+ years? I see some answers rolling in, and it looks like the majority of you are have been TOSC members for a period of time. 2 to 5 years is about 55% of you, and 5 years plus is about 30%. So thank you guys for your long-term commitment to TOSC. We appreciate it. And for those of you that did just join us, I see a few of you. Welcome. Welcome to the TOSC family. We're really glad to have you, and we hope that you'll find some good information out of these trail mixers. So let's see. The whole staff is on here, and we are all so appreciative of you being a member of TOSC. Whether you have been a TOSC supporter for years or whether you're just discovering us, you are what makes us able to do our work. As most of you probably know, and maybe the newer ones don't know this, TOSC receives no money from our government, which means that all of our work is funded by private donations and grants. I won't lie, this year's been a little bit tough, like so many nonprofits, but thanks to the generosity of our members, we have not missed a beat in our work. We're still carrying forth with all the work we were doing before, and in fact, we've actually added a new program to help protect our overcrowded spaces, which has been really exciting. So this is the point in the talk where, as development director, I would be totally remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to ask you, if you are really finding yourself interested in some of these topics we're talking about and very passionate about it, if you are able, consider increasing your membership level. We would really appreciate that. You can also invite your friends to join and find out what's going on. We instituted a new dog membership this year. So for an extra $10, you can add on, and your dog can become a member if they haven't already, and they get a really cute little dog bandana, which we completely are finding a lot of fun. So in the meantime, we hope that you'll lean into our discussion and engage, ask all those questions that you want to know, and let us know what's on your mind. So Susan is going to come up here in a little bit to talk, but before we dive into our discussion about the TOPS tax, we want to pick your brain a little bit and see how you're feeling about the tax. So let's pull up those survey questions about our TOPS tax. There's 2 questions. You can answer them both. The first one we want to know is, what do you think about renewing the TOPS tax? And for those of you that are new, the TOPS tax is the tax that helps fund trails, open spaces, and parks. So let us know, are you in support of renewing the 0.01 TOPS sales tax? Do you want to increase it? Do you want to see a bigger increase? Or do you think that it should expire? Please no one click that one. We don't want that to happen. And then second question, how long would you like to see TOPS extended for? As you know, when we do vote on it, it's not indefinite. It doesn't go on forever. It does expire, and we want to hear from you. When do you want that to expire? So what do we have coming in? It looks like most of you are supporting an increase in the TOPS tax, doubling it, which is exciting. That's kind of how we feel too. And then how long would you like to see it extended for? Oh, most of you want to see it indefinitely. Wouldn't that be lovely? Handful of you want 25 years and 10 years. Awesome. Thank you for that feedback. We really appreciate that. That's really helpful. So when I started with this organization, all I heard about was TOPS. No, that's actually not true. It's not all I heard about, but I heard a lot about the TOPS tax. It's something that's very important to us, and I think that it's something that's important to most of you, which is why you're on the call today. Susan, our fearless leader, is probably the most passionate out of any of us about the TOPS tax, and she's here tonight to give you an update on where we stand with that, what our recommendations are, and to answer any of your questions at the end about TOPS. So Susan, I'm turning this whole thing over to you. Go for it.
I just love the answers to those questions. That is fantastic to hear. And I know that for a large part, we are speaking to the choir, but it's good for you to know what we're thinking about, who we're working with, and how things are going to happen between now and April. Now, I'm sure all of you have a favorite TOPS trail, a TOPS park, or open space. You know, when you think about it, just 1 penny on every $10 spent, it is, as you heard before, the very smallest TOPS tax up and down the Front Range. And yet consider all it has accomplished. Stratton, Red Rock, Blodgett, the east end of Ute Valley Park, which you haven't checked out, you need to. Venezia Park, America the Beautiful, Cheyenne Mountain State Park, Corral Bluffs, Midland Trail, Pikes Peak Greenway, Chamberlain Trail, Cottonwood Creek Trail. You know, it's added, as you read, more than 6,200 acres of open space, and we add to that all the time. Built more than 32 parks and created 50 miles of urban trails. Now, you know, it expires at the end of 2025, and we do have choices. And I think you all agree, one of the choices we do not want the city to do is just to let it end and call it good, because it isn't good. We have so much more to do. So we could wait though right now and wait till we get closer to the expiration date to go to the voters. Or we could take advantage of the makeup of the current city council. They seem to very much care about parks, trails, and open spaces. And we have a mayor who has committed to increasing it by 50% to 0.15. 0.15 would still keep us the lowest up and down the Front Range, but it would increase our annual budget from just a little over 9 million in a normal year to close to 14 million. Another option, do what Denver did just a couple of years ago and increase it to 0.25 indefinitely. That would put us in the middle of the pack and increase the annual budget to $23 million a year, and that would truly be a game changer. Think back to the 2014 Parks Master Plan. Many of you participated in that process. Think of all the things we talked about doing. We wanted to finish the Legacy Loop. We wanted to finish the Chamberlain Trail. We have plans, master plans for 3 downtown parks. You're looking at them now. They are lovely, they are exciting, they are visionary, and they are expensive. We would have the money to finish those plans. We could start chipping away at the list of 14 parks on the list of promised parks that are never going to get built. At $9 million a year, with up to 20% of the TOPS tax used for parks, it's just not going to happen, probably not in our lifetime. But we could start getting some of those things done. And instead of choosing each year whether we fix an irrigation system in one of our 140 plus neighborhood parks or a playground in one of those parks, we could actually do both and really begin to address the long list of needs in our park system. So how do we get there? Well, we start by talking about it, what we're doing right here today. We get our friends and neighbors to agree to the concept. We do some scientific polling, which we plan to do probably right after the November election, and make sure that the community supports the idea of increasing and extending the TOPS tax. We find out what the community supports and where their priorities are. It's the only way we'll win. And by the way, that's the same community that has spent so many hours these past weeks in parks and on trails since the pandemic struck. Because we all know it's good for our physical and mental health. The outdoors has been our sanctuary, our refuge. It's one of the safest places we can be. When COVID struck, our parks and trails were there for us. And now it's time for us to step it up for our parks and trails. Your Trails and Open Space Coalition is bringing these ideas as we speak to community leaders. We are working hand in hand with the experts. Trust for Public Land, maybe many of you know of this group. They are nationwide, they have an office in Denver. They do this successfully, and they have for the last 20 years, all over the country. They have a success rate of about 88%. When they take this to the voters, these usually win, and they usually win in Colorado. They think we can be very successful here in Colorado Springs. We think we can be successful, and we hope you do too. So that's a very high-level overview of where we're at. We're championing the effort. We're taking it to the city officials. We're going to be continuing to take it to the power structure. But most importantly, we're taking it to our partners and our members. And that's what makes us a coalition, taking it to all those folks that use those assets, need to understand how they're paid for, need to see the vision, embrace the vision, and help us get it done in April. I would love your questions. Do you have any questions about this, how you can get involved? About any of these steps? I'd love to answer your questions. And I think Aaron's going to handle some of those questions, and let's take it away.
All right, so let's see, we're waiting for them to come in right now. Let's see, we got our first question that just came in. It says, let's see. So can you talk about the impact of TOPS when we're looking at the east side of town? Will the east side of town see more action than what they've been getting already?
That's a great question. So some of the things off the top of my head, at the last 2B, which was the Tabor override last November, a group of projects came forward, and some of those projects did involve the east side. So for example, you're going to see some improvements in the Sand Creek Trail in the years to come. You are also going to see Coleman Park, which is going to be refigured a little bit, but it's a regional park, community park on that side of town that is going to finally have some, it has money from 2B for master planning. It will have some money to build it. So, we go through these master plan processes like we just did with Austin Bluffs. They're so important. If you don't have it in the plan, if you don't get public participation, you don't know where to put those dollars. But that's the only first step. The next step is now you got to come up with the money to actually build these wonderful features. You've heard a lot about Panoramic Park. That's in the southeast. That's going to be an amazing park. It's big enough to be a community park and have a lot of great amenities. So I would say look for improvements in Coleman Park. Look for improvements to the Sand Creek Trail. Possibly look for improvements to the Rock Island Trail. And then, of course, Corral Bluffs. Corral Bluffs is not open at this time to the community. this organization is committed to seeing that one day you can hike on trails in Coral Bluffs. We're always going to need to be sensitive to the paleontological value of that piece of property, but it also needs to provide recreation for the people that live on the east side of town. So you can imagine that there will be money from TOPS in the next segment to not only plan that area, plan Jimmy Camp Creek Park, plan those trails for that area, but then provide the proper kind of, barriers and security and everything we need to make that a magnificent place for generations to come and give you access.
Another question that we have too is, what happens if we don't get an increase?
That's a great question. So let's say we go to the polls in late November, early December, and the majority of people, for whatever reason, maybe we didn't do a good enough job of reminding them the importance of their parks. Maybe the COVID gets worse. Maybe the economic climate just isn't right. And they say, we would support an extension, but we would not support an increase. That's going to be a hard decision. Most people feel like we could get an extension like that really people would look at the ballot language, which would say, without raising taxes, would you like TOPS to be extended? And we could win that pretty easily. Would we want to squander that effort, though? And that's the question that we'll be raising with you, with community leaders, with members. And we might just decide to wait. We have through the very end of 2025 to do this. We might decide, what, we're just going to wait a couple years, let the economy recover, maybe take it to the voters in 23, 24. The challenge we have is that other issues will be coming before voters. PPRTA, probably LART is going to be coming before the voters. There could be some other tax. So we need to be careful that we don't double those kind of things up. This is our opportunity. Next year is the sesquicentennial. 150 years since General Palmer created the city. And I just ask people, I ask you, what would the general say? What would the general say with the kind of vision he had for trees, for parks? Think of all the land he put aside so that we would have, Monument Valley Park and Acacia Park and, Palmer Park. And we could go on with the various properties that he made sure were set aside so that we had those spaces. So I think we invoke his vision next year, and I think we can get it done.
And one last question that we'll answer here in this section. How do we take advantage of Mayor Suther's support? One person asks.
That's a great idea. So we did go to him about a month ago. We wanted to make very sure before we went forward with this that he was on board, and he is at the 0.15 level. Now that doesn't mean that he couldn't be convinced to go a little higher if the polling supports it. So that's the goal. The next few months are critical. The next few months are when we need to make sure that people are paying attention to the value of the parks, and that if they should happen to get one of those polls, that they fill it out and say yes. So here's what we learned about Denver. When Denver went to the voters, they only spent $180,000 on that campaign. In campaigns, that's pretty low for a city the size of Denver. They also got a 0.25 without a sunset. So they're going to be getting about $40 million a year indefinitely to support their parks, trails, and open spaces. When they did the testing, here's the things they found. When people learned it was going to cost them about $25 per family per year for 0.25, they didn't blink an eye. The people of Denver said, what's it going to do? What's it going to produce? What are some of the big projects we're going to see if this happens? It never was about the money. It was about how is Denver going to be better in terms of parks, trails, and open spaces. And with the grassroots effort, they got like 68% of the vote. So I think we can do the same with your help.
All right, awesome. And during the next sections too, when you want to ask a question, make sure to ask it down in the Q&A button down on the bottom. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Susan. That was really informative and helpful, and I think we're all a little bit fired up for TOPS now. So as you can imagine, and what I've seen, the TOPS effort takes a lot of work. It's a big initiative. And we do have some grant funding to help us create a video to kind of remind people about why parks are so important. And we have some funding for polling. But Susan and the rest of the team are spending a lot of time on this project that we don't have grant funding for, and that is part of what your membership helps fund. So I just want to remind you that your membership dollars are really helping do solid work for our community and to preserve and improve our parks and open spaces. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So next, we're going to be hearing from someone at County Parks. They're going to give some updates on what's going on. But first, we're really curious to know how familiar you are with some of our more popular county properties. So we're going to pull up a survey question here, and we want you to take a look. We want to know, how often do you visit El Paso County's nature centers? Those are the Bear Creek Nature Center and the Fountain Creek Nature Center, or the trails that are around them. Are you very familiar with them, and are you using them? Are you using them once or less a year, 2 to 3 times a year? Are you going frequently? Have you never been at all? And also, have you even heard about the new nature center coming out at Fox Run? Are you interested to go out that way? So it looks to me, as the polls are coming in, that you guys are split pretty much across the board. We do have some people that have never been before, so let's take this moment to encourage you to go check them out. They're awesome. And everybody else, pretty evenly. Some of you go once a year, some go a couple times a year, and some of you are pretty frequent users, and a lot of you are excited to check out Fox Run. So that's awesome. I go out all the time with my kids. I'm an avid user and appreciate them quite a bit. They're awesome. So with that, our next presenter is Jason Meyer, who is a planning supervisor with the El Paso County Parks Department. He's responsible for master plans, the design and construction for county park capital projects. And Jason, correct me if I got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what your job is. It sounds like it's pretty daunting and entails a lot. And it pretty much means to me that you're a really big deal because I use those parks and trails quite a bit. So Jason, thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to hearing some updates from you.
Awesome, thank you. We'll get this started here. Looks like host has not allowed participant screen sharing yet.
You're good to go.
Okay. Perfect. So 2020 has been a very busy year for us at El Paso County Parks. And with the time I have allotted tonight, we thought we would just cherry pick a couple of these projects to share with you today. I will be starting in the north area of the county and will be working clockwise out east, back to Central Colorado Springs, and then down to Fountain. And please, if there's a project not shown here, please ask and I can get you the information.
Hey, Jason, I'm not seeing your screen.
Okay, apologies, hang on. Can everyone see that now?
Yep, perfect.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So our first project is Pineries Open Space, and this is up in Black Forest. This is our newest open space that is open to the public, and we do appreciate everyone's patience as we adjusted our plans for this property as a result of the Black Forest fire. This is a beautiful property. If you've not been up there, please find some time to visit. It is a great all-day hike, half-day hike. It features rolling terrains along the Palmer Divide, goes through some unburned old-growth forest, also through some burned areas. It features over 9 miles of single-track trail. It's become very popular with mountain bikers, and every foot of this trail was constructed either by Rocky Mountain Field Institute or the Mile High Youth Corps. So there's been a lot of community support for this project. Next, we're going to go out east, Falcon Regional Park. This is along Eastonville Road. We are in the middle of our second phase of construction for this park. Design was completed in 2020, which does include a baseball field, a multi-use field, a playground and a restroom, and parking lot improvements, including a separate equestrian lot. We were successful in obtaining a Great Outdoors Colorado grant to fund this construction, and that is anticipated to happen in 2021. Further out east in Callahan, this is Paint Mines Interpretive Park. I'm sure a lot of you have seen some of the recent articles in the media regarding the amount of use this park is getting this year. It has been very overwhelming for us. There has been we are getting 4th of July weekend use out there almost every day now. It's just very difficult for us to respond to this. So we have been working towards some short-term projects in this park. We were successful in getting CARES funding for this park to kind of help address some of those overuse issues we're seeing this year. And that includes rather large and robust trail improvement plan. So we're going to go through and fix a lot of erosion, improve the trail surfacing. We're also going to expand the parking lot to kind of prevent some of the parking that we're seeing along the county roads that are becoming a concern. And we're also going to spend a significant amount of time improving our signage out there. We have rules and reg signs. Wayfinding we've heard has been pretty challenging for some. And then also some additional fencing to keep people along the correct path so that we can protect the resources out there. On the heels of this project, we do have a master plan update scheduled for 2021, and that will adjust our management and operations of this park so that we ensure everything is protected for future generations. Our next project is Bear Creek Regional Park. If you've been along 21st Street, you've probably see some construction out there right now, and that is the pickleball courts. We are currently constructing 12 pickleball courts next to the existing tennis courts along Argus Boulevard. That project has been started. There's a lot of excavation going on. Parallel to that effort, we're also in the design process to replace the main restroom. If you haven't been there, the restroom is pretty old and we've deemed it beyond its useful life. So we are currently at a 50% design level, and it is our goal to have both the restroom and the pickleball courts constructed and open for use in spring of 2021. Further up Highway 24 in the Chipeta Park Cascade community, we are continuing development of the Ute Pass Regional Trail. Early this spring, we completed our first phase of the trail, which is adjacent to Chipeta Park Road. We completed that trail from Ute Pass Elementary, which is in the upper left-hand corner of the map on your screen, down past Marcroft Hall to Winnemucca Road. We are also working on the planning for phase 2, which starts at Winnemucca Road and continues all the way down Chipeta Park Road and stops at the intersection of Highway 24 and Fountain Avenue. That is a federally funded effort. We have retained the consulting services of Stantec. That planning effort will wrap up in 2021. After that, we will move on to construction, which we hope will be in the second half of 2021. We will be doing some public outreach for both the planning and the construction phase. So please be looking for email blasts and social media posts from us on that coming actually later this year. Another one that we're working on in the area is the Jones Park Master Plan. What we have been doing in 2020 with this effort is we have sent out the documents to area landowners, particularly U.S. Forest Service and others. We have actually received those comments back, and we are now working through those comments. And we are also coordinating with Palmer Land Trust and working on next steps. As we transition down south, this is one of our newer open spaces. This is the Cane Ranch open space. This is 4 miles east of Fountain on Squirrel Creek Road. It's about 440 acres, and it's a beautiful prairie experience that was a former cattle ranch and has been grazed for a significant amount of time. That grazing action actually stopped last year, and we're letting that land rest. And we've been seeing some really good results. Nice vegetation coming back. Prairie dogs are really happy out there. We are actually right now constructing the entrance road off of Squirrel Creek Road, which does include a parking lot and a little picnic area by Williams Creek. That construction is planned to be finished by end of this year. We are also looking at bidding the construction of the trail system that extends further into the open space property. On the map on your screen, you'll see all the different colored lines. Those are all different trail loops of different widths and meant for different abilities. We plan on having that trail construction, if not started in 2020, in 2021. But we felt first it was important for us to get the infrastructure in place off of Squirrel Creek Road so that we can actually gain some really good access to the property itself. Enhancing Trailhead, one of my favorites. This has been a project that's been going on for several years. This is our last FEMA project from the 2015 floods. And the reason it's the last one is that it's the most challenging and difficult for us to design and get this thing ready for construction. But it's been a really good year for us. We have partnered with the Fountain Creek Watershed District, FEMA, and the City of Fountain to come up with $2.1 million to complete this repair. When 2015 happened, it took out about 3 acres of wetlands and forested areas. The creek bank was devastated. As you can see from the pictures, we now have a bridge on an island. So we took about 1.5 years to design this with a consultant that specializes in working in large creek areas, has a lot of experience working with the Corps and FEMA. And what we're actually doing here is we are not only repairing the infrastructure, which is the Fountain Creek Regional Trail, but also providing some water quality improvements and habitat restoration to the area. If you see on the exhibit on your screen, we do have some bendway weirs, some other bioengineering along the creek bank, and that's really to bring this thing back and to also make it stronger and more resilient. We are actually going to remove the bridge and move it about 800 feet south along Fountain Creek to a more stable section of the creek. And we're going to actually add a second span, so we're going to widen the overall bridge itself. And with that, we're going to also reroute the trails. And we are really excited to partner with the Fountain Creek Watershed District on this because this is going to be one of their most visible projects. They do great work. They really do. It's just a lot of it is on private lands or further south, closer to Pueblo. And they are really excited about having a place where people can come to a trailhead, actually look into the property, and see a project that they've contributed to, and to actually see how you can work with nature through bioengineering and actually improve a stretch of Fountain Creek. And we are really excited about this as well, is because the Fountain Creek Master Plan actually embraces the creek in this area, and we actually want to get people down into the creek, into the floodplain to experience this area. So this project is actually out to bid right now, and we will be constructing winter of 2020 into 2021 when creek flows are seasonally low in the area. And believe it or not, we are due to update the overall County Parks Master Plan. We last updated it in 2013. This is an element of the countywide master plan. And since 2013, I think we all agree that the growth in this area is just, it has not slowed down one bit. So we think it's time to update this master plan to ensure that we have some responsible growth in the area. This guides our overall park, trail, and open space development, and especially along the eastern urban-rural interface, East Colorado Springs down towards Fountain, Widefield Security, those areas. We really want to update this master plan so that we're positioned to continue to react to that growth. And that is the end of my presentation, but I should mention next year is our 50th anniversary. It is not the sesquicentennial, that's a mouthful, but we are also excited to celebrate our 50th next year. And we will be doing numerous events in 2021 to celebrate this anniversary. And we look forward to partnering with the city so we can do some joint celebrations. All right, with that, I will stop sharing my presentation. Thank you.
All right, so Jason, we do have several questions for you before you run off. The first question is, do you have any updated plans to develop Bear Creek Regional Park adjacent to Lower Gold Camp Road?
At this time, we do not have any planned developments along Lower Gold Camp Road.
All right. A second question that we got is there any effort to stabilize the log cabin site in Jones Park?
I am not aware of that. If we are or not, I'm just not that familiar with that specific item, but I'd be more than happy. Aaron, if you want to send me that information, I can reach out and talk to staff and report back.
We'll definitely do that. And right now, that was all the questions that we've gotten for you.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Jason, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That was really fun and exciting to hear some of the projects that are going on, and I'm sure many of us will be exploring those areas in the next coming months. So thank you for your time. We really appreciate hearing from you. So before we move forward to our next topic, which is Ring the Peak, we have one more question for you guys. The Ring the Peak has been, or the Ring the Peak Trail has been a project in the works for so many years, and we're super excited about the completion. When it's completed, we're really interested to know how you intend to use the trail. Are you looking at using it for day hikes, mountain biking, backpacking, or something else? Or are you personally not using it? You just think it's really good for the economy? Or are you just not even familiar with what the Ring the Peak Trail is? Which we always assume everybody knows what it is. But right now, it looks like the majority of you are answering that you are wanting to go out for either day hikes or backpacking. There's a few people that are saying they personally won't use it, but do think it's good for our local economy. And we have a few mountain bikers out there as well. The good news is everyone on our mixer tonight does know what Ring the Peak Trail is. So you're the right group for us to be talking to about this. So thank you for sharing that information. That's really helpful to us. So we're really, really lucky tonight to have Mike. He is our, whoops. Something popped up on my screen. Michael is our Ring the Peak Trail project manager. He is phenomenal. He is wrangling a lot of different components. It's really interesting. I'm always in awe when Mike comes into my office and I have a question about this project and he starts talking about it and the obstacles and all the different municipalities that we have to work with and this and that. And I told him, Mike, you've got to tell everyone this because people have to understand how hard this project is and how hard you are working on it with your team. So Mike, I know that I appreciate the work that you're doing, the work that your predecessors did, what your current team is doing to make this whole vision come to fruition. And I'm assuming that everyone on this call feels the same way. So I'm going to turn it over to you so you can kind of give us the lowdown on what's going on. And I'm sure you'll have lots of questions at the end.
Sure, Beth, thanks for that great introduction. I'm going to go right into a little slide presentation here. So I know most of you have been members of TOSC for a while. Can everybody see my screen, I hope? I wanted to just go in a little bit on some of the background for Ring the Peak. This is an idea that goes back at least 50 years. Probably some people have thought about a trail around Ring the Peak longer than that. But it really came to a head in 1999 when the Colorado Springs Utilities and U.S. Forest Service got together to develop what they call a regional vision plan for Pikes Peak. There was a document that developed, and immediately after that document was developed, a group called Friends of the Peak began working with the U.S. Forest Service on agreements for existing trails that were already a feature in place on the side of Pikes Peak. And they worked out an arrangement to connect all those trails, amounting to about 63 miles. But at 63 miles, they ran into a couple of problems. One was what we call the Northeast Gap over in the Chipeta Park, Green Mountain Falls area. And then a major chunk of it missing over in the Cripple Creek Victor area because of a variety of different issues relating to everything from bighorn sheep habitat to watersheds for both Cripple Creek and Victor. And so momentum more or less stopped for completing the ring. Oops. So as Jason mentioned, the Western Gap over here is currently being addressed by El Paso County Parks. In 2016, the Trails and Open Space Coalition, along with Friends of the Peak, started a partnership to focus on developing plans for closing the Southeast Gap down here in the Cripple Creek Victor area. In 2017, we applied for a GOCO planning grant to develop a Ring the Peak master plan. And through an extensive process of interviewing a variety of firms, TOSC hired NES Inc., who are based here in Colorado Springs, to manage the master plan process. Through countless meetings and public input, we finally developed this master plan and completed it and had it approved by agency partners just over a year ago. And I'd point out that the entire plan is available up here at ringthepeak.org, completing the ring. If you're interested in actually looking at the master plan, all the work that went into it, see all the various agencies and their feedback, it's an interesting read. It was done very, very well by our partner, NES. I'll just point out that out of that whole discussion came a series of routes that we divided up into segments. Segment 1 comes down from Pancake Rocks to Highway 67. Excuse me. Segment 2 runs along Highway 82 in Teller County and would require easements from the Newmont mine. Segment 3 runs right now currently along Gold Camp Road. Segment 4 is a beautiful piece that runs through National Forest Service property. So what have we done in 2019? Well, we've had a number of meetings with U.S. Forest Service staff, mainly on how to proceed with segment 1 down from Pancake Rocks and segment 4 over here in Forest Service property. Both of those areas are within the Pike National Forest. We've also had considerable discussions with the Newmont mine folks on this segment, segment 2, which would run through through an area adjacent to this county road here. Beautiful meadow habitat, and it would follow an old railroad bed through this area as well. We've also had considerable discussions with the Colorado Department of Transportation, particularly on right-of-ways along segment 2, which would be along State Route 67. And also some safety concerns that we have about running the trail along Gold Camp Road. And so we've had a lot of discussions with Teller County. We've also had extensive discussions and are actively discussing things with our partners in Cripple Creek and Victor. One of the unexpected things that came out of our planning process was how strongly both Cripple Creek and Victor wanted their communities connected to Ring the Peak. And although our initial plan was to just figure out how to connect Pancake Rocks over here to Forest Road 376, it became obvious that if we really wanted Cripple Creek and Victor to play an important role in helping us get this trail through, that we needed to work with them on their desires for their communities to connect to the Ring the Peak. This added about 15 miles, of course, of new trail to the project. But we think, as far as getting community buy-in, it was a process that was well worth it. We've had some challenges this year, as most people have had with COVID-19. It's caused delays in our being able to communicate with our partners and a lot of the agencies who were out of commission for months at a time. Also, one of the issues that we've had problems with was the U.S. Forest Service had planned to have a recreational planner on board. That position was vacant for at least over a year. And right at the time when COVID hit, that person came on board. And so not only did her learning curve extend quite a bit, she was basically out of commission, not because she had any health problems, but just because their office was shut down. Also, right about the same time, a new mine manager came in to Newmont Mine. And so that person kind of indicated that until they got their feet on the ground and understood mine operations, that they would not have any productive discussions with us about an easement across their mine. And then as we did meet with our recreation planner and toured the segment one, she did mention that she had some concerns about our chosen route and wanted to see some alternatives drawn up, which we have done. But we've also had some good things happen. One of the great things is that we have gotten a commitment from the U.S. Forest Service District Ranger that Ring the Peak Trail is going to be a high priority, and that he has assigned staff to the project to make sure it moves forward. And we've had we had one field experience with a new recreation planner. I think that went very well. We got to know her very well. And I think she's going to be a great person to be able to work with. And she reiterated that Ring the Peak is a priority for the district ranger in this area. I just had a communication with one of our partners in Cripple Creek today, who said that they're going strong over there with local support for the trail, have met with the Forest Service, and are going to meet with us shortly. One of the most encouraging things that's happened recently is that the Palmer Land Trust, who we hope to have as a partner to secure easements and negotiate with landowners where we need to cross their land with the trail, just received a large grant from GOCO and will have actually full-time support and a staff person at Palmer Land Trust to work with us on the Ring the Peak Trail. So what we plan to do during 2020, again, based on the feedback that we've gotten from our Forest Service partners, we collaborated with NES staff on their own time to propose this new route using the existing trail to Pancake Rocks and then connecting lower down to Highway 67 using a route that NES had already planned. The route is now being evaluated by U.S. Forest Service staff. And we hope to hear from them shortly about a meeting where we can discuss alternatives. We hope to, within the next month or so, develop a memorandum of understanding with Palmer Land Trust, so we know what each of the partners will be engaged in and how specifically they're going to support Ring the Peak. We're going to continue negotiations with the Newmont Mine in partnership with Cripple Creek and Victor. Now that the new mine manager has had some time to understand the local relationships, and that she came from a mine in I believe in Nevada, so it was out in the middle of nowhere, and so this was her first experience of working on a mine in close proximity to a couple of municipalities. We'll follow up with CDOT on right-of-way access along Highway 67. We've met with them once, and they said they were going to move that up the chain, and I just need to follow up on that. We also need to explore funding options for trail construction. If we can get environmental clearances, as we've been working on for segment 1 of the trail, we hope to have some construction estimates, and then be able to build long-term funding management for, or long-term management funding for Ring the Peak. So that's pretty much where we are. We're looking forward to working next year and getting some things done on Ring the Peak. So I'm going to stop sharing now and see if there are any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Let's see, we do have several questions that popped up. The first is, are the alternatives to segment 1 displayed on the website?
They are not yet. They will be. In fact, I have a map. I wasn't sure how I was going to do on time, so I didn't show the map. We will have a map up probably tomorrow on the Ring the Peak website, which does show not only how we're going to connect with 67, but also some issues related to the existing trail to Pancake Rocks, which if most of you have had experience with that trail, it's in pretty rough condition and will need considerable rehabilitation and potentially rerouting and stabilization. So we'll have that map up.
All right, and then there's the second question is there an opportunity to participate in a discussion of alternates for segment 1?
If there are suggestions, I would love to hear them. We need to narrow something down with the Forest Service so that they can begin their NEPA, their National Environmental Policy Act review of that route. So if somebody has some suggestions and they'd like to get them to me, they can certainly do that through my email, mike@trailsandopenspaces.org. Or we can arrange to meet in person. We're always interested in getting other people's viewpoints.
All right, awesome. That was all the questions for you, Mike.
Thank you.
Mike, we really appreciate you taking the time. I know you scratched the surface of how much work is put into this, and you scratched the surface about how many different partners you have to coordinate and work with and get together. And we really appreciate you taking the time to talk us through it. And I know that you're always excited to talk about this project. So to our listeners, I guarantee if any of you have any additional questions, if you email Mike, he would probably be very happy to set up a call or something with you, because this is something he's very passionate about and really enjoys talking about. And we really appreciate all that work, Mike. So we are at the end of our trail mixer. We are trying to keep you guys under an hour so you could get back to your evening routine. I will let you know our staff is going to stay on the call. Everybody can come back up if you want. We're going to stay on for as long as you need us to answer any miscellaneous questions. I do know there were some miscellaneous questions that came out throughout that were off topic for the presenter, but that we would like to address now. So we'll stay on for a little while. So go ahead and type in any questions or comments that you have for us. And while we are waiting for those questions to come in and give you some time to think about that, I just want to, again, thank you for your financial support of our organization. All the work you heard about tonight is funded by you, and we couldn't do it without you. And once again, I'm asked that if you are really passionate about this and you are able to either increase your trail membership or invite a friend and family to come join us, sign up your dog or cat as a TOSC pet, and you'll get a cute little bandana, or participate in any of our fundraisers. We have the Urban Trail Challenge coming up. All that information is on our website. Erin has been doing amazing work getting that really fun program together, and Alan has put together some of the coolest routes around town. He and I went over them yesterday, and I was geeking out. I think I said 100 times how cool I thought they were. So check that out, whether you're going out with your family or if you're an Uber Trail user, there's a little something for everybody on there. And there's some fun challenges that will make you giggle a little bit. We also have, currently there's a raffle going on. Thailand Gardens is auctioning off what I am told is a very rare houseplant. I don't know how to pronounce the name of it. Cherie and Mike are our plant experts, but I know that it's getting a lot of attention, and all the proceeds do come to TOSC. So go to their Facebook page, Thailand Gardens, and check that out. And that's a really easy, fun way to support TOSC. It's $5 raffle ticket to see if you can win this cool houseplant. I hear that people have been on wait lists for years for it. So for $5, you could be a lucky winner. So lots of different ways to continue supporting the work that we're doing. And before we start taking questions, I just want to thank you one last time. So Erin, what kind of questions do we have?
All right, so the first question is for Mike. The question is, when, let's see, any idea when construction on segment 4 of Ring the Peak could start?
Well, I don't have any firm answer for that. A lot of it depends on how the Forest Service will deal with both portions that need to go through Forest Service land. So if they decide to do the NEPA process on both, then that would streamline the timing quite a bit. If they decide to break them up and deal with segment 1 first and then segment 4 later, that would probably extend the amount of time that would be necessary to get any type of construction done on segment 4. I know, Eric, you've walked that area, and I think anybody who has knows how absolutely spectacular that portion of the trail will be once it's constructed. And it will be a destination in and of itself. People want to go there just to hike that portion of the trail. But unfortunately, right now, it's in the hands of the Forest Service. And our main goal is to show progress on the trail and focus on getting segment 1 through the NEPA process and applying for some grants to do construction and reworking of the existing Pancake Rocks Trail. So that's the best I can do in terms of timing, Eric.
All right, next question will be for Susan. This one says, I understand from the Indy that TOSC is supporting a measure to create a formal process to allow City Council to sell off parks. If that reporting is accurate, why?
Oh, okay, that's a heavy one. Let's go for it though. So all those years ago, when city parks came to partners and said, we have this amazing deal, we think, with the Broadmoor to allow them to build a stable and to build some pavilions if we are willing to exchange with them a lot of property that's going to add to North Cheyenne Canyon, that's going to add to the Chamberlain Trail, that's going to secure a piece of the Bar Trail, a piece of the incline, and all of that would become city property. What do you all think? We were in a big room at the end of January, and all of us were kind of bewildered and said, well, we need to know more about this. So then over the next 6-month period, we learned a lot. And this organization took a tough stand. We talked to partners, we talked to our board, we talked to past board members. And at the end of the day, we talked to the Trust for Public Land. And at the end of the day, we felt that we could put a set of 12 principles that if the Broadmoor would accept, we thought we could actually support that exchange. and the Broadmoor accepted every single one. Well, you know what happened after that. It was complicated. It was, the Parks Board spent probably 15 to 20 hours considering that exchange, and it was controversial, and everybody did not agree. And then it went to City Council, and it was controversial, and not everybody agreed. At the end of it, it voted 5-4 for the exchange. There were people that were really unhappy with that exchange, and there are some people that matter a lot to us. And I remember sitting down with a couple of them and saying, if philosophically you think you should never, ever, ever exchange parkland, even if it makes your system 10 times better, then we can't agree, because at the end of the day, I think with a park system that is underfunded, sometimes we have to be pragmatic. So now we have this November 2 ballot initiatives in front of us. One of them will be what's called the POPs, Protect Our Parks, which has created a list of parks and said if any of these parks ever go through an exchange of 3 acres or more, we want the people to vote on it. The other one is called the supermajority. It would require 7 of 9 of the council members to approve it if that kind of exchange occurred. Both of them are going to be on the ballot. People are going to be very confused. So what does TOSC think? TOSC's board has said, you know what, if either one of those passes, we're okay with it. And the way it's going to work is whichever gets the highest percentage, but they both have to get over 50% to actually win. And I agree with that. If either one of those passes, we're going to be fine with that. Do we have some concerns that these kinds of land exchanges that take hours and hours and hours of consideration and are really complicated, do we have concerns that the voting public is going to take the necessary time to make a decision? Yes, we have concerns. We think the process works pretty well the way it does. At the same time, we do believe in protecting our parks. Every day that we work, we are working in our own way to protect our parks. So whoever said that we are going to come out adamantly opposed to protect our parks is wrong. We won't. We're going to try to get the best information and education out to our members and our partners and let them decide. I'm sorry that was so long.
All right, so the next question that we have is for Beth. It's, can I give a gift membership?
Absolutely, yes. Cherie, I don't know if we have that set up that way on our website yet. I can't remember. We had talked about it. Is that set up so that we can do that?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we actually have a way for you to sponsor a membership. So if there's anyone in our community that doesn't have the funds to become a member themselves, you can choose to sponsor somebody that you don't know that wants to be a TOSC member. So both of those are on our website.
Thank you, Cherie. I know we were working on it, and Cherie, whenever we're working on a project, makes it happen like lickety split. So that is now available on our website if you just go through the Become a Member portion of our website.
All right, so we have 2 questions left. The next one is, can you share where City Parks is on the process of developing the Legacy Loop?
Yeah, and Alan, if you want to tag along with me, you feel free to do so, because that's certainly Alan's passion as well. So there is money in the fund. It's both PPRTA money and a little bit of TOPS money to continue to work on that northern segment of the Legacy Loop that will then connect the Pikes Peak Greenway over to the Shooks Run Trail up through, you know, that connects eventually to Templeton Gap and all that. So that is underway in the next, you know, like year. You're going to see some progress there from the old numismatist building and then beyond. And if you haven't seen the plans, they are drop dead gorgeous. It's going to be so beautiful when it's done. As many of you know, the challenge up there has been the railroad, that they have to put a barrier up there. They have to put a certain kind of fence, and there is some engineering that goes on, and it's not a cheap project. But PPRTA money as well as TOPS money should get that going in the next year. And I know that Parks is applying for further grants as well. And then I'll just say to the south, it's about the railroad. Take it away, Alan, explain that.
Right now, there's a process for the replacement of the railroad bridge over Tejon and Nevada. So when you're going down Tejon, kind of goes down the hill and you go underneath that really old rickety bridge, that's 115 plus years old. I think it's one of the oldest bridges in our area. That's been a fascinating project to be involved with as a stakeholder. And that project is now encompassing over by where the Shooks Run Trail will be going through that area underneath the railroad down by Las Vegas and Royer Streets and what have you. So the good news is that is going to open up some avenues for being able to make a connection there, more than likely in a cleaner and less expensive way. The bad deal is that project won't start until PPRTA 3, and that's funding from like 2025 on. So it's not imminent, but it's much closer than it was before. There's definitely light at the end of the railroad tunnel, as they say, for that southern connection. That'll be incredibly exciting. And some of the improvements coming because of that railroad realignment and the way the bridge work is going to happen, is going to actually open up another piece of trail that will be able to kind of service the downtown area. And then on the northern, yeah, Susan, they're just like the grants. It's much more expensive than they originally planned because the railway, the trail has to be 25 feet behind a fence or a barrier. That's bridge work on Cascade and Nevada, but they are moving forward with that. And I would say within the next 2 years, we will see some significant movement there. However, we have the brand new pieces of Shooks Run Trail because of 2B, thank you voters, that were transitioned from the old asphalt that had the expansion cracks in it to the new Tier 1 standard for that area. And then the really exciting Petty Jewett Junction. So they are continuing to chip away at sections of the legacy loop that are along those ways, and we'll see improvements like that as funding becomes available. But those big connections and that northern connection will be very exciting. That will also tie into the bike lanes that will be on Cascade from Jackson all the way up to Fillmore and beyond. And so a much, much more robust network connection. And then also we've just had it's almost done. I rode across the plywood the other day, but the pedestrian crossing, the trail crossing at Fontanera. So that was another improvement that came with the legacy loop. So they are happening. We are trying to celebrate them to the greatest extent possible when they do happen. And we'll try to get you all the information we can ahead of time.
And if you've never taken a Legacy Loop bike ride with Alan, we need to bug him to offer another because it's something you'll never forget. It's great fun. Alan, you need to offer another one.
Okay. The last question we have for tonight is, where can we find trail usage numbers for local trails?
I can take a swag at that one, Susan.
Go ahead.
So our Parks Department does have a limited amount of permanent and then semi-permanent trail counters. So there is a data set that they do collect. I know that there's at least 2 on the Pikes Peak Greenway. Don't quote me for where the other ones are. And they are using that data to track. And I was just on the Popsicle Bridge area today, and they have a trail counter in that area. And they know that there's over 1,000 trail users a day in the summertime on the Pikes Peak Greenway right in that area. So unfortunately, it's data that's hard to get. Some municipalities actually will have a map and they'll show real-time data. And I know that we have been asking that if we could evolve to something like that. It is data that we would need as an advocacy group. But it's also, I think, very interesting to our public because they would like to see. And since COVID and since March, we know that, just anecdotally, as every time I'm out on the trail, I see way more people on every kind of movement you can imagine: walkers, runners, strollers, bicyclists. And so that would be very valuable data showing us the increase in usage that we've had since COVID. And it's what we're working to keep that going. But unfortunately, it's not easy information to get at this point.
But that's why it's so important to hear from you, because we can now take this back to the next Parks Board meeting and say, by the way, at our last Trail Mix, when members were invited, they asked for more counters. So we're asking for more counters. So your voice matters so much to us. And please, please let us know what's on your mind, what questions you have, and how you'd like to see things get better.
Anything else, Aaron?
That was it. Jennifer from Renfee posted a link that gives information on some of the trail usage. I'll make sure to put that on Facebook tonight so everybody can look at that.
Oh, very cool. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. So we are going to wrap things up. We will be, well, this whole session has been recorded, and we will send a link, a YouTube link out to all members that couldn't join us tonight. And we'll be sure to include any information like that link or anything else like that in that email. So if you want to watch us again, or if there's information in here that you want to revisit, we will be making that available to you. So I think that's all for our questions. And we want to thank you once again for spending this hour and some change with us. We love to hear from you, and we really love to have an opportunity to share what we're doing with you. So we'll look forward to seeing you hopefully at a future Trail Mixer, whether it's in this format virtually or someday live, where we can see your smiling faces too. So for now, good night, have a great night, and thank you once again for your support.
And a shout out for Jason Meyer, our panelist for this
Thanks,
evening.
Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Yay,
Thanks,
Jason.
Good night, everybody.
All right, good night.